you know, uh, yeah, yeah. All right. Is there any question up to here, or should I?
Hi, uh, can I ask?
Yes, yes. Go ahead. Yep.
As you qualify for industrial pharmacist, is there any scope for industrial pharmacist in Australia right now?
See,
Any job opportunity?
let's not talk about that part, because if you are trying to migrate, so you need to focus on the migration point, right? First of all, then you need to see, what is your job criteria and what is, because these two are entirely different things. And I can do an entirely separate session for, what's the scope of industrial pharmacists, how industrial pharmacists are getting jobs, and what's the pay scale, what's the living standard, and etc., etc. So that's entirely different topic. So I would recommend not to bring that up right now, because it would just take the discussions in some other direction. So we'll just stick to the immigration process and what you need to do. So if you don't mind, I'll just leave that question for now, because
Sure.
yeah,
Sure.
okay, yeah.
Just
Any
had
other
just
question?
had another question. Just had another question. If
Yep.
we don't, if I don't claim points for experience, means I have only 1 year of post qualification experience as a production pharmacist in a local
Yep.
pharmacy in Pakistan.
Yep.
If I get positive assessment from Wintesis, but I do not claim points while filing visa.
Yep.
I have which I have calculated now have 65 to 70 points.
Yep.
Do I have chances to get visa?
Yeah.
Which state should I prefer?
Yeah, see, it's up to you that which state, and there's no rule, that you have experience or not. If that's a plus point, and that would boost your application, that would make your profile much more stronger to be invited. But that doesn't mean that there's no chance. You can still you can still lodge your application. You're still eligible. It's nothing if you don't experience. You can't. So it's no harm. Okay. And now to be very precise, every state has increased their quota. Like for example, in Victoria, you had 11,000 something for this year, but just a week. So like there are pretty good chances.
Sorry.
Let's move forward. Okay. All right. So moving forward. This is just a snapshot. Please, Fatma, can you please mute? Thank you. All right. Okay. This is an overview from the social immigration account. This is showing you the cost. So I have not the 1.1 is exactly the same. The only thing is that it's not permanent. You have to get you get 4-year visa, and then you can you're eligible to file a permanent residency just 3 years after. Okay, so it's more or less the same thing. It doesn't really actually. Just the thing is that if you get a regional visa, you have to live in the region and you have to work there, and then you can apply for a permanent. 190 is a straight permanent residency. You don't have to go to regional, or you don't have to fulfill any criteria as per se. Okay. So what happens with the 190 route? So you must have heard about 189 and 190. So we're not eligible for 189, which is directly from the immigration. We are eligible for 190, which adds one extra step. You have to go through the state. See, like you have to apply with the state first, and then the state says, okay, we need that person, and we are inviting that person to apply for permanent residency. Okay, that increases one step, which is not a very complicated step. It's just that you need to or lodge an expression of interest with the state. Okay. All right. So you see you if it's on the which is on the list. You submit an expression of interest, and then you submit a ROI, which is a registration of interest, and then you wait for the invitation. So what has happened now that, for example, let's talk about Victoria, okay? What has happened now when you have done your assessment, you have done your English test, you've done everything, and you are lodging your application, right? So what happens? You apply, you go for a registration of interest with Victoria, and then Victoria sends you a pre-invite. Like, invite is it's like the state saying that we have seen your application and we think that you are eligible to apply. Now that's called a pre-invite. What happens with the pre-invite? After the pre-invite, you around 14 submit all your documents, like your proof of qualification, your proof of let's say of your experience and your English, everything. Then they'll send you a final invite or final approval. When they send you the final approval, then you are able to log application with the immigration. All right. Is everything clear up to now? Okay. So first things first, you need to get an assessment, and the industry they're assessed by VETASES, which is I think you all know about it. So our degree and our qualification is assessed by VETASES. So VETASES will assess your qualification as well as it will assess your experience. So the thing is, there is actual experience and there is the assessed experience, which I'll talk about it in my later discussion. The most important thing to be aware of is that when you go through VETASES, for example, if you have an experience of 2 years, right? So what VETASES does, if you fulfill the criteria of qualification and if you fulfill the criteria of experience, VETASES will count 1 year of experience as the post-graduation experience, and then the remaining 1 year will be assessed, and you will get points for remaining 1 year. Okay. So what does that means now? For example, let's take the example of 2 year experience. If like every one of you have two year experience, so what VETASES will do? VETASES will deduct the 1 year in the postgrad umbrella, and they will give you point for the rest of the 1 year. Now, what happens? Some of the states, they go by the assessed experience. They will only count the experience as the one that will. When you get a letter from VETASES, it will say points assessed experience. So, for example, New South Wales, Sydney, what they do is they get the points that is assessed, that get the experience points that's assessed by the VETASES. They don't count your overall experience. Like, they won't count your experience as 2 years. Rather than that, they'll count it as 1 year, right? But in case of Western Australia, in case of Victoria, and I think in the case of South Australia, I'm not 100% sure, but I think they will count your actual experience. They'll not count the experience that is, assessed by VETASES. Like, if VETASES has deducted 1 year, they'll not count that. They'll not take it into account. They'll get the actual experience for the. Okay. Is that clear, or is there any confusion in that point? Is that clear for everyone? Okay. That was one of the important things. And the second important thing is that your experience must be within 5 years of your graduation. Even if you're up one day, they will not assess your application, and they will not give you points on that. So be mindful for the people for the pharmacists who have experience of more than let's say 8 years or 10 years. They cannot claim the points for the 5, they can only claim points which is within the 5 years from the date of application. That's a very, very important point. From the exact date of application, they'll count the 5 years, and your experience should fall in that 5 year period. Okay. All right, so we talked about the assessment. Then there's English requirements. So the the more the better. If you get 8 each in PTE or 8 each in IELTS, so you'll get a straight 20 points for that. And if you have 7 each, then you get 10 points. And if less than that, so you get. So some of the states, what they do, they have this criteria, or they take this criteria very seriously. For example, in Victoria, if you go on the website, which is liveinmelbourne.com, if you go on the website, which is the official website of the Victorian 190 and 491 thing, if you go on the website, they have a certain criteria of selection. So first is age. If you are under 20, if you're from 25 to 33, that's the ideal age to apply in Victoria. And the second thing is the higher points you get from your English language. So if you get 20 each here, you have good chances to get around that. Partner points, I already talked about it. If your partner is able to appear in an English test, he or she will get 5 points. And if they assess their degree, they'll get 5 more points. That's 10 points. And if you don't have a partner, if you're single, so you will straight away get 10 points. These points were introduced, I think, a couple of years ago, or maybe 3-4 years ago, that the singles would get 10 points. Otherwise, the singles were not being, awarded any points. But good, it's a good thing for singles. If you're single, so you can claim 10 points for that. And NATI, which is the language credential test. This should be this should be the last option to increase your points. For example, if you are short of, let's say, 5 points, 10 points, and you think if you get 75, 80 points, you get good chances, then I'll recommend to just give NATI. Otherwise, in my case, I didn't have to give NATI. Like it was, I had points which were enough to get me through. So what happens in NATI? NATI is a language test, which it's like English. It's like PTE and IELTS. It's a language test. It will give you 2 dialogues, and you have to translate or interpret, from your language to English and from English to your own language. So it's just a test, and it just gives you 5 points. So it just to boost your points. Okay. All right. So the most important thing is the skill assessment. Your immigration depends on skill assessment. That's there's no escape from that. You have to have a skills assessment, a positive skills assessment, to get your application forward. I have mostly talked about the things that are on the screen, like the 1-year experience that they will deduct, and the field should be like, you can't if you have let's say if you have studied chemistry and you're working in a pharmaceutical company, you'll not be eligible to apply as an industrial pharmacist, because the qualification and experience both have to match and both have to be relevant. Okay. Sorry, I'll just admit some of the people waiting in the waiting room. Okay. All right. Okay, so the qualification must be highly relevant, and that most of us have PharmD degrees. So PharmD degree is absolutely all right, and is absolutely it has no problem in the qualification section. So you don't have to worry about the qualification section. I cannot comment about qualifications from any other countries, because I am not a migration agent, as I said before. So I can just comment on Pakistan's qualification, which is the doctorate of pharmacy, and that is well okay. You don't have to do anything. You just have to submit your transcript and your license, for example, if you have, or whatever the documents are, the degree and the transcript. Okay. Any question? Should I move forward? All good? Is my voice clear to everyone, or?
Yeah, Zahra, it's clear now. So Irfan is asking for some rights, so he can admit people. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Thank you for
Hello, Zera.
Yes, hi, Irfan. How are you?
Yes. So my name is Kudzai. Thank you very much for this presentation. I just want to find out if you got experience in regulatory affairs. Is that considered by Vetasis? Because it's not clear.
Yep, I'll talk
yes.
about it in the next slide. Kudzai,
Okay.
Yeah, it's just in the next.
Okay.
Can I do anything, Irfan, for you?
Hi Zara, how are you? I'm just wondering if there's an option on your Zoom where you can say that you can allow me as a host. Then if you allow me, then I can click one button and it will go on the YouTube and many thousand people can see it live. And
I'm sorry, I'm not much.
okay, if you can't, that's fine. I'm recording it when we will put it later. But live session sometimes very, very handy and people love to see live session. That's all right. We will just do it later.
Sorry,
you continue how it's going. That's good. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Usually I use Teams, so I'm not much with this one. Yeah. That's why. All right. Okay. So just going forward, we've talked about qualification. As I said, you have to have the pharmacy degree. You can't be a chemist and just go and claim points for your industrial experience, because I know many of the pharmaceutical companies in Pakistan, they have chemists in their production and quality control and QA sections, so they are not eligible to get their degree or get their experience assessed as industrial pharmacists. So you have to have experience qualification in that pharmacy, industrial pharmacist, or pharmaceutical science. All right. So now this screen or this this section is the most important section, where you need to when you need to put up your employment or your statement of employment, you have to have the highly relevant task included in your job description. So what happens is that, because it's mostly the system and the software, they'll pick up the words, they'll pick up the key points, the highly relevant tasks, and then the application can go further. So whatever your experience is, I know there is experiences which you will say, okay, I'm calling, for example, your question, regulatory. You can see the regulatory services here. Sorry, you can see the regulatory services here. And you can see, for example, manufacturing, you can see technical services, you can see education and training. So these are all information which you can apply for. The only thing is how you structure your statement of service and how you structure your job description, the letter, because the most important thing that they consider or they give an outcome on would be your statement of service. Okay. So as you can see, the highly relevant task, if you are in an R&D, R&D of pharmaceutical, you're working in research development, you're working in, let's say, business development personnel, how you can tweak your how can you tweak your job description, or how can you say, because the business development people, what they're doing indirectly, they are they're improving the product line for their company, right? So if you are a business development person, so you will fall in that one. You'll fall in that category. You can claim that I'm doing research, or I'm doing my work in my company to strengthen the pipeline and to strengthen the pharmaceutical industry in my country or in my region or XYZ. Okay. The second point where it says, the chemist and, other professionals, is where it comes, your quality control, your QA, your QC, your production. So you have to actually structure your job description in that way. And, testing analysis, it's the same, when QC and QA people are doing the same. You're a QA QC person, you can just put in those points. And then for the people who are, for example, education and training. So that's a very interesting one. For example, you are a training manager. In the pharmaceutical industry, you are training the sales force. You're training you're training people in the industry. So you will fall under the definition of education and training. What I would recommend here, that try to include any one of the points from highly relevant skills. It's up to you and it's up to your job description, how you can just think about it and talk to your manager and see which of these 4 main highly relevant tasks would include in your GD in your JD. Okay, so that's I would recommend, so that it increases your chances of getting a positive outcome, because they won't have any ambiguity in your employment or in your experience. And then the rest is if you're in education training, if you are doing, for example, regulatory services, if you're doing marketing, if you're doing sales, so it will all fall here. Okay, any questions to here? All good? Okay. All right, so fees, I know it's one of the important parts, and everyone needs to see their financial situation and their their first steps. So the fees, if you're residing outside Australia, which is in case of I think 90% or 95% maybe of the people here, so it's around $962. And if you need a priority processing, you will have to pay an additional $623, which will make it around 1,600 or something. But the thing is that priority processing, before this year, it was pretty easy to apply for priority processing, but now it's getting difficult because what is happening that the governing bodies, all the not it's not about only VHSS. Most of the governing bodies, they are overwhelmed of overwhelmed with applications, and they're getting so much applications that their priority processing is not as efficient that it used to be. So, for example, if you had applied 2 years ago, so the priority processing was very, very efficient and was very quick. But now what happens that usually VHSS opens up a quota and then it closes it. If you get a chance to apply in that quota, you get a priority processing. If not, you have to go through the online application, like the normal application. The normal application itself, it usually takes 12 to 16 weeks. But to be very honest with you, it can take more in this time, because it's a peak time, and every state is trying to close up, the applications and the quota for their states. So you might, get, if you're lucky, you will get it under 12 to 16 weeks. But if not, it can take more time. So because in my case, I'll be very honest with you, it took more than 16 weeks. It took almost 4.5 months for me to, 4.5, 5 months for me to get my assessment. So because it was a peak time, and because, it was overwhelming, I did actually ask them for a urgency because of some personal reasons, but still they'll take their time. They're not, if you get the priority processing, that's good for you, but still, the normal application you can go through, and meanwhile you can just do the backup things like your English test, like your NATI, or for example your partner wants to give an IELTS or XY. The important thing to be noted here, that we are very lucky that VHSS doesn't need IELTS or PTE at the first step to be assessed. Otherwise, most of the governing bodies in Australia, they need IELTS or PTE before assessing the degree and before assessing the experience. So, so we are lucky in terms of VHSS, that VHSS doesn't need English at first step to assess your degree. So you can just just put up your application without the English test. Okay. All right. So this is one of the important questions that I usually get to hear, and I think Irfan also gets to hear that question. That what is a template for a service statement? How do we write a service statement? So there's no set rule by VHSS that you have to there's no hard and fast rule for that. Just your statement of service should include these points, or these they have clearly mentioned. There's no ambiguity on the website. They have clearly mentioned what they want. They want an issue date of the statement on the company letterhead. Usually what company letterhead would have, the company's name and then company's address, company's email, so that it looks like it's a genuine, statement of service. You might all have seen, letters from your company in all your life. So it's not a rocket science here. So your company's letterhead, then your full name, then your working hours, then your official position. If you have worked in the same company on separate positions, you have to, enlist all the positions, and then you have to enlist by what time to what time have you worked in each position, and then your main duties and main, your salary earned and okay. So I'll show you the example what I did, what my letter had, and then I'll talk about the payment evidence and stuff like that. So this was my statement of service, what I had from